Team Rocket got a set, the gym leaders got their own sets, but for whatever reason, the Generation 1 Elite Four did not receive any cards. Bruno and Lance got some Versus Series cards because they were members of the Generation 2 Elite Four, but Lorelei did not get a card until very recently in Cosmic Eclipse, and she had to share it with Misty. So let's show Lorelei some appreciation as we continue these Pokemon trainer role-playing theme decks. Lorelei is my favorite of the Kanto Elite Four, not just because of boobas, but because she has the most interesting and diverse team of any of them. She's the only Elite Four member that doesn't have doubles of a certain Pokemon. It's a shame that Gen 1 really skimped on the movesets for Elite Four Pokemon, or else this could be a pretty tough team to go up against. As far as translation into the TCG goes, it's not bad, especially Lapras and Dugong, which are notorious for being bulky, hard-hitting water types, and then Jinx, which was good but always played second fiddle to Mr. Mime. Since we are talking Elite Four members here, these decks should be a cut above your regular trainer class, but let's see what we can cook up. See if it stacks up. A great start to this deck is with Lapras, Lorelei's ace Pokemon, as it's got high HP, can attack for 1 energy, so ideally you want to start the game with this thing. Starting with Lapras will allow you to get the rest of your setup while it's just tanking hits, and you can deal some chip damage to your opponent every turn, or even cause some disruption if you want to drop another water energy on there and use Confuse Ray. Jinx is very much the opposite. It is going to be your late game sweeper, where you've already got the 3 energy for Meditate, you come in, you just start knocking out Pokemon that already have damage counters on them. As I said earlier, it's basically a Mr. Mime with higher HP and a higher energy cost, and no great broken ability. Including Dugong in this build would have made it a little too overpowered, so we're going to do a 2-2 line of Cloister. Cloister never gets any love, it's one of the forgotten water types of base fossil, so let's go ahead and include it. Shelter and Cloister both have stupidly low HP, and with a Cloister you're not really going to be going for Clamp, because if you flip Tails, then you've wasted a turn, so you're really going to go with Spike Cannon and try to get off some moderate damage with that. Clamp can be devastating if it actually hits, but that's a pretty big gamble. We'll also be using a 2-2 line of Slowbro, which makes this a very nice water psychic theme deck. You're not going to see a whole lot of use out of Slowbro's ability unless you're comfortable with it just sitting on the bench and absorbing 10 damage from your active Pokemon, trying to keep it alive a little longer if you have a Lapras or a Jinx in the active position. But Psyshock is a pretty decent attack for 2 Psychic Energy, especially when hitting for weakness on some Fighting type and Ghost type Pokemon that you might see from other Elite Four members. While the Pokemon base may be poked up a bit in quality for the Elite Four status, there's not a whole lot you can do with the trainer base, as it's going to be mainly the same as every other trainer class. Got a full playset of Bill, a couple copies of Oak for your pure draw power. Unlike a lot of trainer classes, this is going to be a dual type deck, so that will be handy for getting the right type of energy for the right Pokemon, as well as getting those couple of evolution cards out of your deck. Or if you didn't draw a Lapras or a Jinx on your first turn, that's a good way to get one into your hand. Go ahead and get that in the active position while you're getting your setup done. Couple copies of Computer Search and couple copies of Pokemon Trader are also going to be a big help in getting the exact Pokemon you need when you need them. Or if there's a certain trainer you need to pop out, Computer Search is there to help you search it right out of your deck, sacrificing a couple cards from your hand. Item Finder is there to recycle your plus powers and your gusts of wind. That is how base fossil games are won, is with Gust of Wind, which is especially useful with a late game Jinx, where you're just going to hit everything that already has damage counters on it with Meditate. You're probably going to OHKO everything you're pulling off of the bench to hit with a Meditate. Because aside from Jinx, you don't really have any hard hitters in this deck. You can do chip damage and moderate damage with Slowbro, Cloister, and Lapras, but none of those cards are really going to be landing knockouts for you, and that's why you really have to have a late game Jinx in this deck to win. Most of the cards in this deck have a pretty hefty retreat cost too, so you don't really want to be wasting 2 energy just to pull a Pokemon back to the bench. That's why you also got 3 copies of Switch, and that's pretty much going to be your way to recover from when someone hits you with a Gust of Wind and pulls out a Pokemon that isn't fully loaded yet. The energy requirements of the Pokemon in this deck are pretty specific. There's not very much room for just colorless energy, So you do need to make sure that you're getting the exact type of energy you need to power up that Pokemon when you need it. And that's where Energy Search is going to come in. Because if you've got a Slowbro you're wanting to set up, but you're just drawing water energy, you're going to have to rely on Energy Search to get those 2 Psychic Energy out of your deck. I originally only had 2 Energy Search in this deck, but that was the #1 problem I ran into whenever I was playtesting, and so now there's a full playset in here. Also beefed up the energy counts just a little bit to make sure you never got energy screwed, which was another slight problem I ran into. Full playset of plus power in here, just so you can try to tack on some extra damage when you are attacking with every Pokemon that isn't Jinx. Also a full playset of energy removal. That's also going to help stall out your opponent while you're able to attack with your Lapras for only 1 energy. It's not going to really get bothered if it gets hit with energy removal itself early game. It worked out pretty well in that Lorelei's 2 highest level Pokemon are Lapras and Jinx, and those are kind of the cornerstone of this deck. You begin the game with Lapras, you end the game with Jinx, and then throughout the middle of the game, place as many damage counters as you can with Cloister and Slowbro. That way, you can finish strong. Go in and just start sweeping your opponent as soon as you can get a Jinx powered up. Finishing off the deck with 8 Psychic Energy and 8 Water Energy, which proved to be just enough for me. Once I beefed up the energy count, I didn't really get energy screwed for specific types of energy as much anymore, and if I did, I had Energy Search there to help me. So the question becomes, how does Lorelei actually stack up against the regular trainer classes? And I'd say mission accomplished in that it does stand just a tiny bit above most of the trainer classes, mainly because of the inclusion of Lapras. If you really want to make the deck as good as it can possibly be, just go ahead and get rid of the Cloister and Slowbro lines and just replace them with a 4/4 line of Dugong, because it's just that good. It's a highly underrated card, but it also does detract from one of the major points of this mini format I've tried to establish, which is giving some spotlight and usage to as many different Pokemon cards as possible, which is why I chose to include Slowbro and Cloister in this build, mainly just for diversity's sake, not for viability at all. The other question is, how does Lorelei's deck stack up to the rest of the Elite Four? And spoiler alert, it's the best one. Both Bruno and Agatha are weak to Psychic type, and Lance doesn't have a lot of good cards to work with. So if you want to see how I fleshed out the rest of the Elite Four, just stay tuned to the channel. I'm going to be posting all 4 Elite Four members 4 days in a row, and just leaving this image up as long as possible because holy shit do I love the Pokemon Adventures artwork. If there's one card I do wish I could have squeezed into this deck, it'd probably be Super Potion, because it works really well with Lapras, as it's got high HP, can attack for 1 energy, so discarding that energy isn't going to hurt it all that much. Plus, you could also work it into Slowbro's ability and actually get some use out of that ability, try to pull off some damage counter moving and healing shenanigans. Let me know down below which Elite Four member you like the most, which deck would you be most excited about playing. Stay tuned to the channel for more vintage Pokemon TCG content, and until next video, bye.